Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gold Standard with Alan Mosley, and here's your host, Alan Mosley.
Well, welcome back to another episode. What, 19?
19.
19, ooh.
Well, we're getting older, buddy.
Ooh, we're getting older.
It's bad.
So, are you saying that we should do episode 19 and then 19 part 2 and then 19 part 3?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, this is episode 19 of the Gold Standard. I am your host. I am your host, Alan Mosley. And we had a plan for today's episode, but we had some last-minute shakeups, and we're not going to be able to do that episode today. We'll probably do that next week or the week after or something like that.
Yeah.
But, one thing I have never done, I have never, previewed on an episode what we have coming up.
Yeah, try that. Might be pretty cool.
Like on next week's episode, we have done it. I've never done that before.
You've never done that?
I never have.
You have, right. That's right.
Yeah, so for the 17 people who watch the show, it's just a surprise every week.
Look, it's off the cuff every
now.
time, man. We just surprise you constantly.
So next week, we're doing a Memorial Day special with the professor and historian Kevin Gutzman.
Yes.
Which is going to be awesome.
That's good.
And so now that I've said that, he'll cancel and we won't do it.
That's what's going to happen.
And that's not what,
And that's why you shouldn't say those things. But if everything goes according to plan.
But see, you just talked me into doing it, and now you're saying I shouldn't do those things.
I don't believe in a lot of things. I had a wonderful day today.
I know you did. Tell everybody why your day was so
insanely depressing today was. I wake up in the morning, we raise goats. My wife and I raise goats. And we got up this morning, and one of our favorite goats, Maximus, this beautiful Nubian male, he's gorgeous, is dead. He's dead in the barn. Just dead. It was very depressing and very sad. The night before, he was happy, healthy, fed him a bottle. He's doing great. He's 12 weeks old. Come in the next day, and he's dead. So I buried my favorite goat today. I'm not happy. It's very depressing. Oh, well.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week. I mean, we're
I'm not lying. I'm serious. I mean, this really happened to me today. And to make it even funnier than that, my wife is terrified of possums. There was a possum under the goat shed, totally scared the life out of her. Now she's afraid to go back and work with the goats now. This is a possum living with his mouth open ah.
This is the most that Blake has ever talked on the show, and now it's just an emotional roller coaster.
And now you understand why I don't.
Yeah. So.
Oh, boy. Well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I can't come back from that. So I'm just going to move on.
You just go.
Okay. So today's going to be kind of one of our old school episodes. Remember back in the day when we were in the old Red studio, and I would have my stack of things, and we would talk about them, and then I would yell and get really mad, and then you'd have to adjust the sound, and then we'd come back and do it next week.
Yep.
So once we updated the set, it became a kinder, gentler.
Yes,
Gold Standard with special guests and all that.
And less angry looking.
So, and less angry looking, but I'm wearing black today. And I'm mourning for your goat. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't know it.
At least someone is.
Yeah, so telepathically you told me you were in mourning and I wore black.
Are we that in sync?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Carry on, my friend.
Yeah, so we're going to do a regular episode this week.
Knock it off.
We were just talking before the show about there's certain subjects that seem like they just keep on popping back up in the news, right? Like it's every single week, there's a gun thing, or a school thing, or a Trump thing, or whatever.
There's always a Trump thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, one thing is that there's been a national anthem. Respect my flag, don't kneel thing.
Yes.
Several times. And of course, for people who literally have been living under a rock until yesterday, that's going back to the previous football season.
Right.
And players who were protesting various social injustices by kneeling during the anthem and whatever.
And the fact that we're only about a couple months away from the next football season, here you go.
Yeah, so we're getting ready for round 2. So that brings us up to the first link today is more anthem nonsense. So this is from ESPN, and I do peruse ESPN a lot because I'm a sports guy, and I know ESPN hasn't been great as of the last few years or so, but I still get stuff from them, so sue me.
Yeah.
So new policy requires on-field players and personnel to stand for anthem. So the NFL owners unanimously approved a new anthem policy, and I just want to say really quick, I know someone at home watching this is going to say, well, that's not totally true because it wasn't an official vote. I know all that, but they still have a new policy.
Right.
So the new policy now is that you don't have to be on the field for the anthem. But if you come out if you leave the locker room and you come out onto the field during the pregame festivities, then you are going to be required to stand at attention.
Gotcha. So now when we're watching the games on TV, or if you're there, you're going to notice half the team doesn't freaking show up.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. And of course, obviously, from a business perspective for the NFL, this just spurns from, well, they don't want their product to be hurt and they don't want viewership to go down because, so they're trying to come up with a stopgap measure of, we don't want that to be the image of the NFL because you're an employee of the NFL and you're representing the league, and we don't want that. However, so there's really only 2 points to this. The first one is that, are you abridging a player's First Amendment rights by not allowing a protest or fining them if they do?
No, they work for you. They're an employee. I mean, that's it. I mean, if you work for somebody, they set the rules. I mean, that's just understood in any job. I don't care if you're a janitor or an NFL player. You're going to have to abide by the rules.
So that's the first question, and then the second question is that, well, it kind of seems like sort of an end around asshole way of the NFL to deal with it, because basically they're saying well, we're afraid you might do something in public we don't like, so you just hide in the closet until we're done with with my song, and then you can come out and warm up or whatever. So I'm not really here to get into the specifics about their actual policy or whatever, because yes, they are a private business, and yes, they have the right to manage things the way they want, all that.
Exactly.
But hold on a second. This is something that I think we need to do a good job of getting across.
Okay.
And that is, look, this is a libertarian podcast show, and I understand that if they're a private business, they're going to get to make their own decisions, and we're not calling for regulations by the state against private entities, and that's violence and yada. I get that. I don't need anyone to email or write in and say, well, Alan, you're not a real libertarian because da-da-da. No, I get that. But that doesn't mean that people are exempt from being criticized when they do something that we don't like.
Right.
If McDonald's makes a crappy burger and you don't go to McDonald's and you tell your friends, that really sucked, I'm not going back there.
Yeah.
You have the right to do that.
Sure.
I'm not saying the government should regulate McDonald's.
Right.
I'm just saying I have the right to criticize them for something that I don't like or not patronize their business or whatever. So I think that the NFL could have handled things a lot better and a lot differently. I think that, of course, the really big picture for me, and I don't want to speak for you, for Blake, but for me, it's I don't worship the flag and I don't worship the state, and I don't go around covering my heart and blessing my songs and singing the anthem and all. So I don't agree with all of that crap.
Sure. Okay.
But
you're totally entitled to.
So I would just assume, so their answer is that in order to not have these little social justice faux pas, you'll just wait in the locker room.
Right.
My answer is, how about we just don't have the anthem played before every game? Because believe it or not,
not a bad idea.
That's actually a relatively new thing, believe it or not. We didn't always have these huge grandstandings. We're waving the flag on the field and the jet flyovers and the anthems being sung by Carrie Underwood and whatever.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say people's names because now people are going to say, "What's wrong with Carrie Underwood?" No, it's not Carrie Underwood.
She's a common person that does that. Yeah. So when I was a kid, I remember that kind of sort of starting in the late 80s, mid 90s.
That's about when it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also noticed the correlation between that and the military being honored at football games, and that's kind of
that's an interesting point you make there, Blake. You see, I know there's a reason why we have Blake. So there's an interesting point because there's another factor of this. Yes, there's another factor of this that we don't talk about, and that is, while it's true that the NFL and all the individual franchises are private entities, the NFL gets a pretty significant sum of money from the U.S. Department of Defense and whatever for them specifically to do, big hoorah military exercises and supporting the troops and waving the flags and all that. So they get money to promote those things.
Right, absolutely.
And then of course, like I said, like, you know, then the parachuters are coming in and the flyovers of the jets and all that stuff.
B-17 bomber.
Yeah. So to be clear, like, they're not doing a flyover before our episode of the Gold Standard.
Right.
They're doing flyovers before the NFL games because there's a partnership there financially.
Yes, they're trying to recruit soldiers.
Yeah, they're trying to recruit soldiers. They're trying to.
And hey, you know, if you can't make it as an NFL player, why not be a soldier, right?
So they're glorifying the warfare state and the military-industrial complex and by extension the soldier. And really, and to be clear, like, this is a hot button issue.
Yeah.
And I know that it makes some people uncomfortable, but this is the real long and short of it is they glorify the soldier because they feel like it is harder for a political opponent of theirs to attack the soldier.
Right.
Because then you're seen as, well, how can you not support our troops? And, oh, they're dying overseas and they're protecting your freedoms. First of all, that's all BS. That's all BS. Soldiers haven't protected my freedoms in my lifetime, so get over yourself. That is not happening. We could sit here and have a historical debate over the last time the military actually protected our freedoms. It hasn't been in my lifetime. I'm 32. It hasn't been in my lifetime.
Right. Well,
so
I honor a person's willingness to volunteer, to put themselves in that place. I honor the person who chooses to be a soldier. I don't necessarily think that our soldiers are being used for what they're intended to be used for. I think our soldiers are being abused. I think that they're being made to do things and it's being spun in such a way that, you know, they think that they're doing something right, but actually they're being used to, you know, push an agenda.
There are no good cops.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why there's no good cops.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of unjust laws. And the position of law enforcement is that we don't make the laws, we enforce them. But if there are unjust laws, and you know this, and you enforce them, and you know that there are bad cops who are doing bad things, and you don't rail against them, then there is no such thing as a good cop. Because they are, by definition, doing things immoral.
Once again, I'm going to say I agree with that to a certain point, but I think that the people, the individual person, the father, the son, the individual who chooses to be a police officer is not necessarily doing wrong. But I think that they are, because of their position, are being forced sometimes to enforce laws that are not fair. But I also believe that there are cops that have good judgment and who choose not to, you know, push on somebody something that they feel isn't fair for the situation.
No. And the reason I say no is because I'm not going to sit here and say, well, look, the individual father who volunteered to join the Nazi army and he's gassing people in the concentration camp.
He didn't volunteer, he was forced.
Well,
so you know.
But there were plenty of volunteers.
Okay.
You know, he's not the one who wrote the rule that we're going to gas all the Jews.
Right.
But I honor him, the person.
Yeah, but he had to do that, because if he didn't, then he's the one that's dead. So then it's being used to force people to do force.
So by your own logic, this is even worse, because they don't have to do these immoral things. They do them because they get a paycheck. Their paycheck from the police department or the military is worth more to them.
I don't see how there's a win there. I don't see how there's a win there.
The win is you don't involve yourself in immoral institutions. You don't join the police force knowing that they're going to tell you to go club a kid smoking a doobie, and you don't join the military knowing they're going to send you to the Middle East to kill some babies. You don't join an immoral institution.
And that is completely the choice of the individual.
Well, then the individual who still chooses to do that's a monster. Like, that's the position of me in this show.
You're entitled to believe it.
Sure. No, I mean, I'm definitely entitled to believe it because it's true. It's just a factual moral statement that if you know that the government does immoral things, and you know that they have unjust policies, and you know that they are hurting innocent people, and then you knowingly still then choose to be a cog in that wheel, you have now chosen to side with the monsters. There is no moral justification for you now. You could have done, if you're telling me that there's literally nothing else you could have done other than to take that job or that position, you'll have young people that'll say, well, I'm going to get my college paid for because I joined, the GI Bill or whatever. So what you're telling me is that the GI Bill is all it took to pay for you to go murder some people. Like, that's all it took.
Right.
So yeah, that's a hell of an indictment on you.
Right.
That you are so easily bought that your police pension is enough for you to go shove your boot down the neck of somebody who wants to smoke marijuana, or the GI Bill is enough to buy you off to go do a tour in Iraq or whatever. You know, you're the guy with the joystick and you're sending in the drone to strike the wedding and kill a bunch of women and children. That's all. The GI Bill is all it took. That's all it took to buy that from you. Like, no, I don't celebrate that. So because of all of those things, because of this whole umbrella of things, that's why I don't go around waving my flag and singing my anthems and all that. Because why? I mean, I don't identify with them. They sure don't represent me. Like, that's a big part of it, right? Like, they definitely don't represent me by any logical stretch of the imagination. So I would just assume have a football game and just take all of that out of it. And if the players want to use their position as a professional football player to champion some cause or charity or movement or whatever, I'm sure they could still think of ways to do it.
Right.
Like, I'm sure there's still other ways they could use that position.
So let me ask you this. What would you do if you were a player? Would you take a knee?
If I was a player, well, first of all, if, you know, let's say, you know, like, what's the NFL minimum wage? It's like, I forget what it is now, like a couple 100,000 or something.
More than I can dream of.
But a lot of players make the NFL minimum wage, which is a lot of money, but it's not millions.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have, like, your quarterbacks and stuff that are making five-year, $50 million contracts and stuff. So, you know, if I'm a player making millions of dollars for the NFL, you know, you've got to make a decision. Either you're going to take that paycheck and you are a representative of the NFL, and if they say jump, you say how high. Or
and you're just like a soldier or a cop at that point.
The NFL doesn't drone bomb women and children in Iraq.
But they make really bad calls sometimes.
that BS pass interference may make you as angry.
Yes.
The same. Your blood pressure might be the same as it is about the war in Afghanistan.
Right.
But the NFL,
the principle's the same, although the intensity's not the same.
Yeah. So the point being is that that's a decision for you to make. The difference in the analogy you're making is that the NFL, of course, the NFL is a private institution, and you can walk away.
Yeah.
The government is not a private. It is by every definition that is a public institution.
Exactly.
It is not a private institution. So there are certain expectations on it. And when this public institution that is supposed to be a representative government, and it's not, and then does horrible things, commits war crimes. I mean, call it what it is. When they commit war crimes, when our government of the 19th century is, you know, genociding the Native Americans, then no, I'm not singing the anthem and I'm not waving the flag because they've done terrible things. Sure. And so they don't represent me, and so therefore that's among many reasons why I identify as an anarchist, and I don't believe in the state, and I want it to go away.
And you can understand the big moral dilemma that's involved.
And that's why I will absolutely judge very harshly people who get in bed with that institution. And I don't have, and while once again, the NFL as a private institution can do what it wants, but it is not above my criticism for the things that it does.
Right.
Just like the players are not above criticism for the things that they do. And so, you know, I think to put the kibosh on this first segment is everyone's a dick. And like we said that before the show. So, yeah, look at Blake. Blake's like, no, this went... So, I know that got really serious there for a minute, but...
That was intense.
If you are joining the military knowing that the military is the enforcement wing of a corrupt government, then I will criticize you for being the monster you are. Sorry, guys, that's just how it is. And same thing for cops. And same thing for your typical bureaucrat, right? Like if you're telling me that, well, you know, I don't believe in the state, and I think that bureaucracy is bad, and I believe regulation is bad, but, you know, I got a job with the TSA. Up yours, man. Like, If that was the only job you could get was fondling people's private parts at the airport, and like you think it's wrong, but you joined them because they gave you a paycheck. So once again, this isn't even a question of right or wrong. This is a question of, so how much is your morality worth? Is their paycheck enough to buy you off? Yeah, I'm going to criticize the hell out of you. Well, this really got dark.
Yeah, it got dark.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm wearing black.
You are wearing black, so you're entitled to being dark today. He's dark today.
And the dead
He's
goats.
He's dark as he wants.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm digging this. Go on, man. So what's next on the agenda? Jeff Sessions sucks?
Well, since you said that,
he sucks. I have to agree that he does suck.
Let's skip to Jeff Sessions.
There's a little too much authority there.
We haven't had a Jeff Sessions sucks segment for like a few weeks.
Jeff Sessions sucks. I honestly have missed it.
You know what's good about Jeff Sessions sucks? A friend of ours, a friend of the show, said this before the show. I said, I need to come up with an article for Jeff Sessions sucks because I want to bring that segment back. And they said, but Alan, the segment is Jeff Sessions sucks. So really, you could just say that as a reminder to your audience.
It is an absolute segment.
If you, in case you guys don't remember, Jeff Sessions sucks, and we could just move on to the next segment.
Well,
but hold
we
on.
want to show you why.
But hold on. So what's awesome about, God, look at him. Just look like, isn't that just that's a face only, what is it? A face only a mother could love. He's just such an evil leprechaun. That's what it really is.
I will crush you.
So
my little fist.
What he did this week is he was talking about homicide rates going up in Chicago, and it can't be because of inane, ridiculous laws and the just woefully mismanaged government of the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois or the United States. It can't be any of those reasons.
Yeah.
The reason why there's more murders in Chicago, according to Jeff Sessions, is because they passed laws against stop and frisk, and it was way easier for law enforcement to protect and serve you when they could just stop anyone on the street at any time with no notice and search your person. Just delete the Fourth Amendment, delete the Bill of Rights, So Jeff Sessions, now keep in mind, this is the same Jeff Sessions that to people who wanted right to try and to people who wanted medical marijuana and things like that, his answer was take a couple of aspirin and suck it up. So this is that same guy. So this is the same Jeff Sessions who said take a couple of aspirin and suck it up to like terminal cancer patients. He also says that, well, if we would just get over this whole Bill of Rights nonsense and just let the police start frisking everyone on the street, then they could stop more crimes.
No. No. There's a limit to how much authority there needs to be in this world, and that's pushing things just a little too far.
And so, and wouldn't you know, I just got done demonizing cops like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and maybe you wonder what above the cop, and it just keeps going up and getting darker and more dismal.
Yeah, so you wonder
this guy.
So where does that authoritarian state comes from? It comes from people like Jeff Sessions,
right?
Who think that we would just, if we could just have one more breach of the public trust. If we could have one more law, if we could just get rid of one more natural right, then everything would be better.
I don't understand when people are going to get to a point where they realize that taking away people's freedoms does not make you free. It doesn't. All it does is oppress you more and more and more. Do you want to be driving down the street and just because somebody thinks you might be doing something wrong, they pull you out on the side of the road, throw you on the ground, take everything out of your car, and rip you a new one on the side of the road in the blistering temperature for what? For nothing? Half your day gone? Oh, well, that's not of a big deal. But yeah, it's a major infringement on your rights as a human being.
So people have seen, like there's been millions of memes made about it. All these protesters holding up signs that say, is your freedom really more important than security? Yeah.
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 I got my own to do security. I don't need your help.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what do you want?
You know what the biggest problem, like this is funny, I should have a segment each week that's called Alan's Biggest Problem. You know what the biggest problem in the country today is?
Biggest problem.
The best segments are the segments that we just make up that segment.
I love it.
And then we never do it again.
Yes.
Is the problem isn't that we don't know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. The problem isn't that we can't convey our point of view.
Yeah.
The problem is that there's a genuinely high percentage of people who they really don't get what we just said. Like, in their mind, they're thinking, yeah, but freedom's not really that important.
And I used to not get that either.
Well, I mean, because they're
but
thinking...
it makes sense. The more you think about these things, the more they become light to you.
These sheltered people who they've never been on the wrong end of some random false accusation and been grilled by the cops on the side of the road or whatever. They're the ones thinking... The people who say if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. You know, the people like a Jeff Sessions who would say, well, if you would just allow the police to do their job, a.k.a. trample people's rights, then you'd have less crime. Like, those people on just a foundational level don't get what we're saying.
No.
Because it doesn't ever occur to them that that could be used against them in a very harmful way.
Oh, sure. I mean, how would you like to be, you know, frisked on the side of the road just because you're black?
Yeah.
Why? Don't do nothing wrong, you're just black. So being black is a crime.
Yeah.
Or you got a jacket on that the cop doesn't like, and he just, you know, the next thing he thinks you're doing drugs. You know, the problem is this judgment thing that goes on a lot of times. They judge you, they think that you're doing something wrong just because you look different. You know, it's the same thing that leads to school shootings with these kids. You know, you got to stop profiling people. You got to just let people be people, and they're going to be all right. But when you're constantly putting a smackdown on someone, you're making them do wrong.
I mean, I judge people for looking different, but I don't put them in jail.
I judge people for awesome hairdos like this.
You know, I saw an article about that people who make fun of cargo shorts and that men should quit wearing cargo shorts.
Why? I got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, like I don't understand that.
I don't know.
Like,
We're
what's
both
wrong?
wearing cargo shorts right now. Do you
No,
want us to
we
stand
wear
up?
suits and ties. They just don't see under the table. Now you've ruined the illusion.
Look, the cargo short is a thing of manhood. Okay, it's
Yeah.
manly to wear cargo shorts. You got a wallet, you got a gun, you got fingernail clippers, you got everything in there.
It's racist that you're using that
No, it's not.
that voice.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. You're culturally appropriating that voice right there.
What voice?
This has just gone way off the rails. See, this is what happens.
This is why you want to watch us, because
Yeah.
we're crazy, man.
This
we
is-
go in all these weird directions.
This is what
But
happens.
wait, there's more.
This is what happens when we have a plan, and then the plan sort of kind of gets uprooted at the last minute, and then we're having to sort of like scramble for the show.
Yeah.
It's also why we don't do a 5-day-a-week show.
Yeah.
Because if you had this crazy going on 5 days a week,
It would get out of hand.
we would be so far
Man,
down the rabbit
dude,
hole.
you have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's next, my brother?
So let's go to armed bystanders
Armed
kill shooter
bystanders.
at Oklahoma City
there we go.
restaurant.
Oh, wow.
Good guys with guns stop bad guy with gun.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Oh,
I know,
no.
right? Like, yeah, I know. So I know that's hard to believe, but this actually happened in Oklahoma City just this past week. A man opened fire with a handgun at Louis Bar and Grill, striking 3 people inside the restaurant from a position outside the front door. All 3 of those people are okay, by the way. So there's actually only one fatality, and the fatality is the gunman who opened fire at the restaurant.
Okay, which is something you shouldn't do if you love your fellow man.
Yeah, you would imagine.
Yeah.
And so
shoot people.
a couple of bystanders retrieved their own handguns from the trunks of their vehicles.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, right. So they returned fire at this guy, and they don't know which one dealt the fatal blow, but the gunman is dead.
Yeah, he was Swiss cheese.
And no innocent civilians are dead. The two heroes are not dead, who are Carlos Nazario, 35, and Brian Whittle, 39. And they didn't know each other, by the way. Those were just 2 guys who were there at the same time, went out independently.
Yeah.
And they stopped this guy. And so, of course, obviously the reason why this is in the news is, as we had mentioned earlier, gun stuff's in the news now like every week.
It's constant.
It's either, and there was a school shooting that we didn't address on the show because we didn't talk about it, because
There was one this morning.
we can't make
just-
every single episode
About guns in school.
about protecting the Second Amendment and school shootings and whatever, because that would be every single week.
Right.
And so we've skipped a couple.
Yeah.
But the reason why we brought this one up was specifically because it's the counter narrative of, because people there had their own firearms at their disposal, we don't know for certain what might have happened in a different scenario where the gunman had more judicial aim, had more weaponry than just his handgun. Maybe he shows up with 6 or 7 more clips in his pocket, and he's just waltzing through the restaurant gunning people down.
Yeah.
And in a scenario where he felt no threat to his person, that would be more likely to happen. But in a scenario where he's fearful for his own life because someone might shoot back, then it's the whole dynamic of the scene is different, right? Like the whole dynamic of the amount of shots he's able to put out, how brazen he is with his attack is counterbalanced with people shooting back at him. Whether that is a police response or more likely than not a citizen's response on the scene. And in this case, that's what happened. And I wanted to bring that up for that reason, but I also wanted to bring up, and you even see the link right there, bringing us to our second link. We talked about this on a previous episode. I believe it was episode 8 or 9. When we had talked about the Sutherland Springs shooting. Remember that?
Yeah.
When there was a shooting at the church and he was just mowing people down.
Yeah.
And then the neighbor from down the street, who was Stephen Wilford, he's not even at that church. He just hears the commotion down the street. So he grabs his AR-15 and he runs barefoot out of his house down to the church. And then he ends up exchanging fire with that guy. He hits the guy. The guy gets in his car and drives off. He jumps in the truck with Johnny Langendorf, who was the other guy there.
Right.
They chase the guy down the highway. Eventually, that shooter it dies on the side of the road.
Yeah.
But that was probably a more notable instance recently of a good guy with a gun.
But I've heard that the good guy with the gun scenario happens way more frequently than the other way around. We just don't hear it in the media. It's blocked from you. They don't want you to hear that. They don't want that. They don't want you to own a gun, but they want to own a gun. You understand that, right? They don't want you, the citizen, to be an armed person, but they want a gun so that they have power over you and can do what they want to you, but you can't do anything to them. And the fear that they have of the citizens of this country and the citizens in general being able to fight back terrifies them.
Well, there was a statement that I'd made on Twitter the other day that I know got and on Facebook that got a lot of hits and some discussion. That was, I make no mistake about it. If some type of gun control was ultimately passed where basically it was borderline impossible for a private citizen to have a firearm, the political class will still be armed.
Yes.
Their enforcers will still be armed.
Yes.
Just you won't be armed.
That's right.
Don't kid yourself. There's no such thing as anti-gun.
Yeah.
There really isn't.
Right.
Because the people who would tout themselves as anti-gun desperately need guns consolidated in the hands of an elite in order to make sure that other people don't exercise their right to have guns.
That's exactly right.
And so it's just disingenuous to purport this concept that, well, I'm anti-gun and I just want all the guns to go away. It reminds me, there's an old Simpsons episode, back when The Simpsons was still good. That's going to, get some hate mail right there. Back when, I don't think that's controversial.
No, that isn't.
It was one of the old Simpsons episodes where, remember like Kane and Kodos, the aliens with the giant eyeball?
Yeah.
They came down and enslaved Earth. And what happened was, it was like one of their Halloween-y type episodes where like someone had made a wish that there were no guns.
Oh.
And so all the guns were gone.
Wow.
And then the immediate thing that happened after all guns disappeared and now everyone's just skipping through the meadows and the world is perfect is aliens invaded and took over Earth. It's irony, but it's good irony. Yeah. And so obviously that's a funny episode. But
it's a good example of what can happen if you so stick to your guns. Don't willfully go along with what's going on. Fight it. Like everybody says, just call your Congress people because you have to, because there is no other system in place. We have to go with the system that exists. So if you have to use it to your advantage, by all means.
Yeah.
But just do whatever you can. Fight it. Resist.
Speaking of criticizing people and that being totally legitimate, and when we say we're criticizing someone, I'm not saying that there should be a law. I'm not saying that I want the state to have a regulation against a business I don't like. Right. I'm criticizing because I think they're doing something stupid that I don't like.
Right.
Speaking of
And
that,
you are Alan Mosley, so.
and yeah, so I'm kind of known to do that.
he can do
Yeah, I'm known to do that. So you might have seen some uproar recently of people saying that they were going to cancel their Netflix.
Oh, here we go.
Some people, and if
Probably
you
just because it's expensive.
well.
But anyway,
I don't.
Continue.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Like, I have Netflix.
So do I.
And I
like anime. I can't help myself. I admit it.
that's a whole.
That's a whole nother one. We're anime guys, but we'll go there someday. Continue, my friend.
That's a
I know where you're going with this, and I think everybody else knows where you're going with this too.
I know, but
I blew your mind.
I'm mentally derailed because now that's just a whole other thing for us to discuss. But some people were upset at Netflix, and they were saying, I'm going to cancel my Netflix subscription. And it wasn't because of any particular show or service. It was because Netflix announced that they had signed a deal with the Obamas.
Oh, God.
For the Obamas to
There you
produce
go.
some content for Netflix. And now this is the same Barack Obama that bragged recently that, you know, his presidency didn't have any scandals.
Right.
And so... Yeah. He bragged. He actually said out loud with a straight face
yeah, I was like, wow.
that my presidency doesn't have any scandals, and so, you know, so I'm laughing at these other jokers who do.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of Obama and scandals, so this was something I actually got this from our friend Mance Rader. I don't know if he made it, but I got it from him because I steal all my stuff from him. It's just how it is. This is the Netflix original film series advertisement, Bombs of Peace.
Yep.
And it's talking about the Obamas, and it just runs through the list. So, U.S. NATO destruction of Libya, sponsoring jihadi terrorism against Syria, mass surveillance, drone warfare, indefinite detention without charge or trial, waiving the Child Soldiers Prevention Act, arming neo-Nazis in Ukraine, starting a new Cold War, Libya's slave markets, and supporting the war on Yemen. That's quite a film series.
Not to mention the complete disruption and downgrading of racial tensions in the United States.
Yeah, no.
We won't even go there.
So, Bombs of Peace, coming soon to Netflix.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. All of a sudden, I just give a crap about Games of Thrones, and I've never even seen that show.
It's, first of all, it's Game of Thrones, you pleb.
Like I said.
Second of all, how...
Pleb. I've never heard that before.
How
do you
dare
say that
you?
backwards?
How dare you come on... How dare you come on to the gold standard with Alan Mosley, having not watched Game of Thrones?
I'm a father of four, man. I got 2 dogs, 2 cats, 4 kids, 13. Make that 12 goats, 2 fish, 1 fish. Actually, the other fish also died. And there's no time for sleep. How am I supposed to?
We're not even going to talk about the donkey.
Don't even go there.
I'm not even going to...
I had a donkey. Her name was Willow. She died. We bought her. She was already sick. We didn't know. It was a learning experience.
Did you name Willow after the movie?
I did name Willow after the movie.
We should have done it. See, this is...
Man, let me tell you something. Before the show started, we were talking about Willow, the movie Willow. If you've ever seen it, I just spent $50 on a DVD for Willow. You can't get the stinking DVD anywhere. Greatest movie ever. If anybody disagrees with that, hey, look, you're lost, man.
So... Like, we should have, you know what we should do?
What?
We should have, like, a dry erase board back here. And when we have, like, in the middle of filming, when we have an idea, we should be jotting down, like, ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, but colored chalk. It'd, like, have a black light on it, so it's real shiny. Sorry, I got excited.
We don't have a budget for that kind of, like... Speaking of which, okay. you know, I didn't say anything about our website or Facebook or Twitter
we do need to go
or
there.
Patreon. We'll do that at the end.
Yes.
I feel like the end is fast approaching.
It is fast approaching.
I feel like the end is fast. So, because there's just so much to unpack. So,
yeah.
So you're a weeaboo.
I'm a what?
A weeaboo.
What's a weeaboo?
You like Japanese stuff.
Yes, but I've never heard of that.
Don't worry about it.
I'm not otaku if that's where you're going.
And then, so you like anime.
Yes, sir.
So we can do an anime episode.
Oh, yes.
And I had already said we were going to do an Avengers episode. We're going to talk about Infinity War and stuff.
One of these days. And make sure I watch the movie before we go there. Okay?
Yeah. You shouldn't be admitting to people that you're one of these.
I ain't got time, man.
You're so busy with funerals that you haven't had time.
It's awful.
To go see Infinity War.
I need to see that movie.
You know what? You know the reason I really want to do that though is that I want to have an episode where we can put in the title Avengers: Infinity War, and then we get a whole bunch of clicks from comic book people, and then they're going to get a dose of libertarianism.
That's right.
That's and then
that's clickbait at its finest, my man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
Number 4 will blow your mind.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, and then every single so you can say to me, so this happened in the movie, and then you can say, Alan, what's the libertarian position on this?
And that's what I'll do.
We're gonna
I don't know.
We're gonna call that episode "What's the Libertarian Position on Avengers: Infinity War?"
I'm sure there is one.
So we're gonna do an episode on Avengers. We're gonna do an episode on anime. We're gonna do an episode on Willow, which I liked Willow.
Yes, Willow is a great movie.
So I'm old enough to remember what Willow was.
So how many of you out there actually remember that movie? It's a great movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's been one of the forgotten classics.
You know what's cool about having a show with all this awesome stuff that Blake does is that I can actually just go over here and type in something, and he can pull. You should always wait until I pull it up before you do that.
You never know what's going to show up.
Because maybe it would be
Right.
It could have been
totally new.
It could have been Willow,
Yes.
the Pornhub exclusive. It could have been all sorts of stuff.
No, but hey, no, there we go.
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the IMDb.
So when was it? 1988.
1988.
1988. So long time ago. This was one of Val Kilmer's earlier movies. I don't think it was his earliest movie, but he was younger in this movie. He was great, by the way. I love Mad Mardigan.
You know, another thing about the movie though is that Warwick Davis is that actor.
Yeah.
The what do they like to be called?
I don't know. They were called Nelwyns in this movie, but they're little people.
The Nelwyn.
Yes, but he was awesome.
But
it was his best movie I've ever seen.
There's a limited number of dwarf actors and a limited number of roles. So a lot of times you see Warwick Davis. Nowadays it's the guy
He also played Leprechaun. Remember Leprechaun?
And now his name just totally
Warwick Davis.
No, the guy that plays Tyrion Lannister on Game of Thrones. I can't believe.
I know, but
Peter Dinklage. I don't have to look it up. Peter Dinklage. It's Peter Dinklage.
Okay, there you go.
So Peter Dinklage, so you're going to see him a lot in big roles that call for a dwarf because he's a good actor who happens to fit that role.
Right.
But the reason I brought that up is that what was cool about Willow is that Val Kilmer is in it, and he's the sexy, awesome warrior guy.
Yeah.
But really, the main character is Willow.
Yeah.
And so the main character is the dude who's not the big, awesome warrior guy.
Right. And how he pulls off the best, awesomest, most coolest heroic thing ever.
He's the he's the main protagonist that the movie is named. So I mean that's cool.
Yeah, it was just a cool movie. You know, I think it's right up there with The Princess Bride and Legend and Labyrinth and just all those great movies. You have to have this in your collection. Not that we're trying to sell movies, but this bad boy right here needs to come out on Blu-ray. If you're not listening to me, I'm telling you, please. I don't think we can show that. Can we show that?
Can we show that?
I don't
Just
know.
show it.
We'll show it.
If we get
here you go.
This show's going way off the rails.
I know.
My children found this
so excited
alone by the river.
This child is special.
This baby will not destroy me.
Find the child.
So
Time is running out.
Elora Danan has chosen you to be her guardian.
Me? You need a warrior for a job like this. I'm a nobody.
George Lucas and Ron Howard bring the epic adventure to new heights.
He also has a token Black Dwarf.
Yes.
We need your help.
Yep.
For the first
That dude
time
is
ever
badass,
on
too.
Blu-ray.
Yes.
It's really dangerous to twirl a sword
I know.
like that.
High definition.
I wouldn't try that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
That's not a good idea.
With new bonus features, including deleted scenes and never-before-seen footage.
totally
Is this the DVD I bought? I think it is.
I totally forgot that this was a
Ron Howard film?
well, not just Ron, but it was a LucasArts.
Never before.
Yeah.
It's right.
Back before George Lucas jumped the shark.
Yeah.
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 Children will come to remember this day.
Willow. Own it on Blu-ray.
You need this movie. We need to get this thing back in stores like ASAP. Not just because it's awesome, but because it's freaking awesome.
So, I think that's all the time we have.
Yeah, I think that's all the time we have. So tell us where they need to go.
Well, first of all,
Okay.
LucasArts should be paying us for advertising Willow. I think that they should. I think that they should be a sponsor of the Gold Standard.
I think they should be too.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Well,
love
but
it.
there is no LucasArts. He sold to Disney.
That's true.
So Disney now needs.
Which might explain why Willow hasn't been, like, rebirthed in any way. Huh. I think that should be a Disney thing. Okay, anyway.
So where they can find us on social
Yes.
media is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley and Twitter @Alan M. Mosley. Our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com. And what you really need to do, if you really want content as amazing as what you got today, and I think we can all agree this is the best episode today.
This is pretty good. Yeah. I think
No
this is
other
pretty
episode-
off the cuff and just enjoyable.
No other episode had a movie trailer
Right.
that I'm aware of until now.
For an old
of something particularly relevant to the conversation,
Yes.
like Willow. They need to go either to our website and click on donate, where you can make a one-time donation via PayPal to me so that I can go blow it on Hookers and Blow.
No.
And then
Don't say that.
on the show.
No. Yes.
And, yeah. Yes.
Yes. You do what you do with your own money is your problem, son.
And then if you wanted to be a supporter of the show, you could go to patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley.
Yes.
And you could become a monthly subscriber. And not only do you get our eternal gratitude, but you actually get some little goodies.
Oh, do you?
depending on what you give us.
Oh.
So I
so
think
good stuff, huh?
I think at a pretty low level of subscription, you actually get a little handwritten note
From you?
from me, signed by the host of the Gold Standard.
That could be worth money one day.
You know what? I tell you what.
What?
If you donate us 100, I will send you a signed copy of the Willow Blu-ray.
Where are you gonna get that? That's not even possible,
That is
man.
yeah.
That doesn't exist.
No. As you full well know, that's hard to come by.
You don't have one of those, do you?
A Willow Blu-ray? Well, the way you're looking at me, I'm going to say no, just because I'm scared. But I
He's
don't.
holding back.
I don't. I'm just thinking.
Man.
I'm just thinking that you spent like $50
On a regular DVD. Oh, it's unopened, mind you.
What I'm saying is that I could buy one for $50 and then sign it and then send it to you. Is what?
Don't listen to him. Just help us out. We need help. Okay, obviously. Can't you tell by looking at us? All right.
So
who's coming on the show in the near future? We've got some really exciting things coming.
Okay, so next week, our Memorial Day special is going to be with Kevin Gutzman, which our audience is going to know. And I actually just got done recently reading his politically incorrect guide to the Constitution. So we're going to talk about constitutional stuff, founding father stuff.
Good.
It's going to be a history episode.
Yeah.
I love history.
Yeah.
And we haven't really had like an exclusively history episode.
Yeah, so I'm excited. That's gonna be
that's
pretty
gonna be
cool.
a history episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in going into the month of June, in no particular order, we're going to have Eric July, the front man of Backwards.
Good.
We're going to have Tom DiLorenzo, who's also a historian and an amazing author, who is notorious for being an anti-Lincoln guy, and we're going to talk about that on the show. And
That should be interesting.
And he's also spoken a great many times with the Mises Institute.
Okay.
Speaking of the Mises Institute,
Okay.
we are going to have the president of the Mises Institute, Jeff Deist,
Exciting.
is coming on to the Gold Standard in
Awesome.
June.
Awesome.
So June. And then to cap all of that off, the Gold Standard is going down to New Orleans for the Take Human Action Bash, which
good.
is June 30th. And we're going to be down there hanging out with some people that you know from our show, Scott Horton, Mike Meharry, Michael Bolden.
Good.
All that gang. Tom Woods will be there. Dave Smith will be there. I think Eric July's there too, bringing music. So,
Yeah.
so
We got a
all
lot
so
of
those
really
same
exciting
people
stuff
that we
coming up.
just said that are our friends are also going to be there
That's awesome.
because it's
Yeah,
going to be a lot of it's going to be a lot of fun. And actually, believe it or not, it is free to attend. So check out on Facebook the Take Human Action Bash, so you can get the details to that. It's going to be in New Orleans, July 30th.
Yep.
It's free to attend. So if you're in the area, you can go and you can meet me,
Him.
and to a lesser degree, all those other people I
He might
named.
sign a note for you.
I'll even sign your copy of Willow
That's right.
for $50.
It's worth the drive.
It's worth the drive. So we have what are the first? So we talked about pop culture.
Yes, we talked about
had
pop
we
culture.
had a movie review.
Yes, we did. One review.
We talked about upcoming guests.
Yep. Okay, guys. Gun control again. Briefly talked on that, and of course Jeff Sessions always sucks. And then what else?
And we also had our meme of the week.
Yes, I had meme of the week.
So
That one won't go away.
I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, "Wow, this is the worst episode I've ever seen."
No.
But I think
This was actually pretty fun.
I think it was actually the best episode
And why is that?
for all the reasons we just listed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we had a good time, and we hope you did too.
Well, we have to get this all out of our system because
Yes.
when we don't have guests here is when we get to be just
Off the cuff,
disgusting,
be ourselves. Yep.
just uncouth,
just right out raw and straightforward. Yeah.
But when someone's here with us, we have to be.
Yeah, we have to button our shirts or something.
Yeah, no, I don't. I
He
don't have
doesn't
to.
do it.
I don't.
He's got more hair on his chest than I do. All right, that's enough. You're scaring people.
Like 3 hairs. It's all on the top of my head. This episode's over.
This is over. Yep.
This episode's done.
Yep.
So it may not have faded to black yet, but I want to just in the middle of some random sentence, it just cuts off.